Hey, what's up guys? Today we're reviewing the terrain race. The terrain race is one of the obstacle course races I do every year. I do about 3 or 4 different types of obstacle course races each year. I usually do Spartan, Tough Mudder, Savage Race, and Terrain Race. I've done Terrain Race for the past couple years. This is a review of the race in Maryland, so your mileage may vary depending on where your race is located. I'm going to be addressing four major points to the race. One is the price. Second, obstacles. Third, course map. And fourth, prizes, because we're all concerned about what we get if we finish the race. So let's get to it. All right, first things first. This terrain race was a 5K, so about 3.11 miles, and there were about 15 plus obstacles. Most of the races I do are usually anywhere between 20 and 30 obstacles, so there were a few less on this one, which was a little disappointing, but when I get to the price, it may mitigate that factor a little bit. The price was free. Yes, I said free. Now when I say free, you do have to pay for insurance because they're not going to let you run the course without it. You have to pay for parking if you go there, and the parking for the Maryland race was $20, which I thought was pretty hefty. You have to pay for your packet pickup if you don't pick it up the day before, and your packet pickup basically just consists of registering and getting your bib that you wear on your shirt, and you have to pay for a bag drop if you're going to leave a bag there. Bag drop was $5, packet pickup was $5, parking was, as I said, $20, which I think was a little bit excessive. And the insurance was about $14, with tax comes out to about $17. All in all, it's not technically free, but you're not paying as much as some of the other races out there. So of course, with that in mind, there were only about 15 obstacles, and the race was only about 3 miles long. So one could argue you're getting what you pay for. All right, let's talk about those obstacles. A few things were different from last year. Normally what I've experienced with the terrain races is that there's a wet start. So they put you in this big bathtub full of murky water with a whole bunch of other people. It's kind of a little bit gross, and you jump out when they say go, and you're off to the races, literally. This year there was no wet start. Now I was not complaining about that because the water is usually, like I said, kind of murky and dirty. It's also cold, and I'm okay without a wet start. So that was one thing that was different about this year. One of the first obstacles was a hole that was filled with water that you had to jump in and jump out. Your entire body gets wet, maybe for the exception of your head. Immediately after that were monkey bars. Now this was hard because the monkey bars are kind of thick metal poles. They are very slippery, especially when muddy and wet. So you go in the water and then immediately you have to grip onto these monkey bars, which just destroyed my arms. If they didn't destroy yours, then you are a better person than I am, but I was kind of destroyed after the second obstacle. As far as other obstacles go, some were better than last year, and a lot left a bit to be desired. Things I noticed were the rope climb, if memory serves, was a lot better than last year. It was actually kind of like a regulation obstacle race height as opposed to last year, which was considerably shorter. They had a multi-rig, which consisted of a long metal tube that you had to traverse hand over hand, and then a couple grips that you had to get across and then hit a bell. It was very Spartan-like, and that was a really good one. There was another one that was super tough, which was it was 4 ropes that you had to traverse one to another. By the time you got there, your arms were just absolutely cashed, and that one was really, really tough. So those obstacles were pretty good. They had some that I recall from last year that were not particularly tough and not particularly interesting. There's one where you have to pull a tire on a rope, not too hard. There's another one where you have to hit a tire with a sledgehammer. This one's not too bad, but it was right after one of the wet obstacles, and the sledgehammer was slipping out of my hand, and my grip strength was absolutely kaput. So that one actually proved to be a little bit of a challenge. But if I could offer a word of advice to the folks who create the terrain race, integrate some more interesting obstacles. That would make the race a lot better. All right, onto the course map. So like I said, this was a 5K, so not too long. You could kind of go for speed on this one. The big problem with the one in Maryland was that it was confusing and hard to navigate. There was not a lot of clear signage as to where to go after you were done with certain obstacles. Sometimes you would be running along the course and it wasn't very clear if you were still on the path or not. I won't lie, I actually got derouted once, and I had to go back and kind of loop back around, so I would hit all the obstacles and make sure that I completed all of them before finishing. I don't like that when I do a race. I like to have a clear idea where I'm going. I really shouldn't have to think about where I'm going too much. I should be able to look up, and there should be some kind of signage wherever I am that will tell me where I should go. So that was one big downfall of this race. It was a little unclear as to where to go. As far as the actual terrain itself, relatively flat. There were a couple ups and downs, but nothing too crazy. All right, now we're on to the prizes. So you run the 3 miles, you finish, you get through the finish line, and just like every other OCR, you are handed a medal right around your neck. You go and you pick up your t-shirt, and that's pretty much where it stopped. There was no recovery drink like there are in a lot of other races. There was no recovery snack. There was no, protein bar or anything like that. And there was no beer. No free beer after the race. While I don't always need a beer after a race, it's still a bummer. That's kind of one of the fun things about doing these races. You run a bunch of miles, you do a bunch of tough obstacles, and then you finish and you can have a nice cold beer. There was no beer at the end of the race. There were cups of water. So a little disappointing on the prizes aspect, but you did get your medal and you did get your t-shirt. Did I say it was free? So overall, this race was okay. You kind of get what you pay for. For me, it was a good first race to start the season. It got me out, used to some of the obstacles, reminded me of maybe some of the weaknesses that I need to work on over this racing season, and I did have some fun. So if you're thinking about getting started with OCRs, go do a terrain race, especially if you can get one for free. All right, folks, leave me some comments as to what you liked about this year's terrain race or anything else about obstacle races, and I will see you on the flippity flop.